Blog Talk Radio.
We are back. We are back on the Jeff Fox Show, and we are going to go to the Real Man Block guest line and speak with somebody that I'm sure you know. He's a good friend of the show, a South Florida icon, I'd like to call him, because he's known down here. And you can follow him at Sid Rosenberg. Guess who I've got on the line? It's Sidney Rosenberg. Sidney Arthur Rosenberg. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jeff, it's great to talk to you again. Great to talk to that South Florida audience again. And, you know, I got to tell you, man, I'm up here now. Tomorrow is actually my one-year anniversary on the Bernie and Sid show on WABC in New York. 1 year. I flew up here actually a year ago today to move back to New York. But the folks down in South Florida, between my Twitter page, which you just mentioned, my Facebook page, and even folks listening on the free WABC app up in New York, Gabe down in Palm Beach, Stephanie down in the southern part of Florida. It's amazing how loyal that group was. So between my days at 790 The Ticket, WQAM, and especially my days at Fox Sports 640 in West Palm Beach, that is a great South Florida audience.
Absolutely, and you brought a lot to the radio business down here, Sid. I mean, despite the stuff that everybody may want to say, hey, listen, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping.
Well, you know what, Jeff?
You
know what? I'm glad you brought that up because come down to Florida since I'm a little boy. You know, Jeff, my dad split his time between New York and Miami, Hallandale, really, and Aventura during the winters, you know. And I would go down there and there'd be a million New Yorkers. You know, Fort Lauderdale, the beach back then was the place to be for spring break, and New Yorkers everywhere. And I would listen to sports talk radio because I loved Hank Goldberg down there. And no one would ever talk about New York. You know, they thought the Dolphins, we hate the Jets, and the Heat, we hate the Knicks. But in the meantime, you had 9 billion New Yorkers, people from Chicago, people from Philly, people from Boston, and no one ever talked about their home teams. They all moved to South Florida. They didn't all become Dolphin fans and Heat fans and Panther fans. They still love their teams from where they came from. I was really the only guy, I think, in the history, and that's why I think guys like Joe Rose resented me and others, because I came down there and I decided I'm a New Yorker. I'm in Miami now, but I still love the Giants, the Knicks, the Rangers, and the Mets. And I'm not giving up those teams because now all of a sudden my zip code starts with a 3.
That's right. You stay true to your colors. I mean, you knew who you were. You know, when you got to South Florida, it didn't mean you have to abandon your teams or anything like that. You know, and you're still very much a South Florida guy, even though you're from New York.
That's right. And I would still get these emails and messages that go, listen, Sid, you know, you are one of us now. We've accepted you. We love you. We love what you do. You do something completely unique and different, something we never heard down here in South Florida. The least you could do is love our teams. And I'm like, no. I mean, look, I became a big-time Florida Panther fan because, truth be told, I'm very close, and now even closer with Vinny Viola, who went to work for Donald Trump, by the way, and Doug Seafood, 2 New York guys who own the Panthers. And the Dolphins are very good to me. Harvey Green, Pat Riley wrote a chapter in my book. He was always great to me with the Heat. And even the Marlins, you know, until I became a 640 guy who carried the Yanks, they were great to me. So I had great relationships and still do with the teams down there, a lot of the fans down there. But I was never, if I stayed there, Jeff, my whole life, I was never going to be Florida first and New York second, ever.
Yeah, you got to say true blue, baby. True blue. We're talking to Sid Rosenberg right here on the Jeff Fox Show. Sid, co-hosting now the Bernie and Sid Show middays. It's been a year. What's that ride been like to transition from South Florida back to New York?
It has been, it's been amazing. You know, look, I decided, Jeff, years ago, about 3-4 years ago, really I decided even before that when I was at WQAM working for Joe Bell back in 2010, that I was going to include and infuse some politics and news into my show. You know, I really miss Neil Rogers. You know, I grew up with Howard Stern and Don Imus. I worked for Don Imus, but I really loved Neil Rogers' show. And when Neil died, and by the way, I took Neil's place when he died, and Jim Mandich's place when he died, God rest both their souls. There was nothing like that in South Florida. And I knew that from WFAN, the greatest sports station ever in New York, they had Imus in the morning, and he did politics. QAM in their heyday had Neil Rogers in the middays, and he did politics. So I decided I was going to try to do some of the things that Imus and Neil Rogers and those guys did, and I had success at WQAM. Then I went to 640 Sports, Jeff, and it became a major, major staple of my show. Me, Eric Langell, Steve Zemak, we did news and politics about half the time. And really it was because of that stay at 640 when I started to do those things that people took notice around the country, and that's how I got the job up here at WABC. So not only have I moved from Florida to New York, but I've really gone, Jeff, from a full-time sports guy to a guy now that spends 6 hours a day up in New York talking politics and news. And that has been a great transition.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, how much do you really miss sports and all the bitching that goes on in sports down here?
I still miss it. I mean, listen, I do TV up here. I did the latest season of the top 10 list for the NFL Network. I'm on that. SNY, the home of the New York Mets up here, they have an Emmy Award-winning show. I did that this spring. I did host 8 or 9 Yankee games up here locally on Channel 11. So I'm still involved in sports up here in New York, but mostly television. I do a lot of guest spots, Jeff, around the country. In fact, I've got 8 lined up for next week talking Super Bowl. So I'm still regarded as a sports guy. I still keep in touch with the sports people around the country. I still watch every game, trust me, even more now than ever up here in New York. But am I involved like I used to be? Not really. And do I miss it as much as I thought I would? Not really.
Did you catch up with a couple of Giants games during the season? And what did you think about all the fuss about Odell Beckham and the boys coming down here to South Florida just to hang out for one day?
Yeah, listen, there was a lot made about that. I fought with Bernie about that, and Bernie was trying to tell me 6 days later that it affected him. And of course, physically it did not. I don't care how much he drank, if he did drugs. Some of those guys did. 6 days later, they were not affected in Green Bay. But, Jeff, what you can't argue is it was a distraction. Odell Beckham admitted it himself. The Giants talked about it. Eli Manning, who never says a word, he talked about it after the loss to Green Bay. He was actually pissed off. So the fact is, were they screwed up a week later from the drinking? No, but it was a huge distraction. Odell had a brutal game that day in Green Bay, and he knew it. He knew if he had a bad football game, they were going to go back to that stay in Miami with Justin Bieber on that Monday, and that's exactly what happened. So he came under big fire up here. I think he deserves it. I think he's a wonderful wide receiver. But if he wants to be that guy mentioned in the same sentence as guys like Antonio Brown and Julio Jones, you have to have big games, make big catches in big games, and stay out of trouble.
Yeah, you certainly got to deliver. Talking to Sid Rosenberg right here on the Jeff Fox Show. Sid, man, I thought the Giants were the one team outside of the Dallas Cowboys or maybe the Oakland Raiders if Derek Carr didn't go down. I thought the Giants were one of those teams that the Patriots just didn't want to see. But it seems like everything has fallen exactly the way Tom Brady and Bill Belichick hoped. What are your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Well, you're right about that, Jeff. I mean, look, the facts are the facts. This is the 7th Super Bowl for Brady and Belichick. That's a record, by the way. They've got a record of 4-2. I don't have to tell you they're 4-0 against the likes of Seattle, Carolina, the Rams, and the Eagles. The record against the Giants, 0-2. So there's no question the Giants have some type of formula, whether it's an amazing Eli Manning pass or a Michael Strahan sack. They've got a way of bothering Tom Brady and beating New England. So I think you're right. And I thought the Giants had a chance to be a very dangerous team if they got by Green Bay because they did beat Dallas twice during the regular season. Now, look, I don't think they would have stopped the Falcons either. The Falcons on turf right now remind me of the Rams. Those Kurt Warner Ram football teams with Marshall Faulk and Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce who put up big numbers and big points. That's the Falcons right now. That Matt Ryan's got that thing going strong. So I think the best team did win in the NFC. I do think the Falcons will give New England all kinds of fits because of their speedy offense and the way they can score. But in the end, to bet against Brady and the Belichick, you've got to be nuts.
One of the greatest dynasties I think we've seen in sports are the New England Patriots. You've seen the Islanders, you've seen the Yankees, Gretzky's Oilers. Where would you rank Belichick, Brady, and these guys, especially if they pull this off next weekend?
I listen right up there. I mean, you can't go as like the Celtics, right, with Bill Russell and those guys. They won 11 or 12 championships. I'm trying to think who else. The Islanders did win 4 Stanley Cups. This is even more impressive than that. Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls. This is more impressive. The Staubach teams in Dallas, the Montana teams in San Francisco, maybe the Canadian teams in the NHL. Jordan won 6 championships in a row. He did sit out for 2 years, and the Rockets played both those NBA finals, but maybe there. But anyway you look at it, all these great teams are talking about in dynasties. At this point, 7 Super Bowls, 6 straight conference championships. You can talk about the Patriots with just about any team, I think, outside the Celtics in the history of professional sport.
Sid, folks are giving Brady a tough time about his relationship with Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States, whether some of us like it or not. Where are you on Brady being criticized or ridiculed or whatever you want to call it in the media just because he's got a relationship with Donald Trump? And is that fair to Tom Brady?
Ridiculous. Listen, it's ridiculous. Look, we know this. The media is controlled by the left, liberals. Listen, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm a New Yorker, too. I got to know Donald Trump. I'm not going to say very well, but I met him quite a bit of times, saw him quite a bit of boxing events about 15, 20 years ago. I didn't like Donald Trump's campaign. I thought it was childish. I thought it was insult-ridden. I thought he had very little solutions. He was quick to name the problems, and I agreed with him, but he had no solutions. Yep. But in the end, he won. And I've got 2 kids. I've got an 8-year-old son, Jeff, as you know, and a 12-year-old daughter. And I need this country to be at its very best. You know what that means? It doesn't matter what I thought about Donald Trump before November. He's my president. This is my country, and I want him to succeed. Unfortunately, many of my brethren on the left, they can't seem to do that. They are more childish than Donald Trump. They're angry. They're pissed off. They're marching. Hollywood elites are going crazy, mentioning him at award shows. It is pathetic and embarrassing. So, listen, Tom Brady likes him. Good for him. Listen, I got news for you. The next 3 days, Donald Trump and Mike Pence are speaking at a GOP event in Philadelphia. Guess who's going to be there? Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning gives tons of money to the GOP. He gave a lot of money, actually, this time around to Jeb Bush, who lost to Donald Trump. So it's not just Tom Brady. It's Peyton Manning and a host of others. What this country needs to understand is if you don't like Donald Trump, that's fine, but we have to come to some meeting place, some place that says he's the president. We may not agree with him, but hopefully he does a good job.
Yeah, I certainly hope so as well. I mean, I don't agree with him as well, but like you said, when you tweeted about a week ago, I voted for Hillary and quite frankly never really liked Trump, but the protests, the bitching, the boycotts, embarrassing, grow up America. And I don't think that's going to stop.
That's right. Listen,
soon.
And I voted for Hillary too, but Jeff, to be honest, she was a brutal candidate. She was a fraud. They are a corrupt couple. They are. They just are. The Clinton Foundation has taken millions and millions of dollars from some of the most ruthless leaders and some of the worst people in this country, in the world, quite frankly, I should say. So in the end, and she had the FBI issues, she had the email issues, all those things were legitimate. They were credible. So I did vote for her because I wasn't thrilled with Donald Trump. But she was anything but a perfect candidate. And I'm not sure, to be honest, if she had won, she would have really done a very good job because truth is, as much as I like Barack Obama as a person, he talked a big game and did not get much done in 8 years.
You're on the air in South Florida tomorrow, I believe, for those that missed you, right? Correct? Am I reading correct here?
Yes. One of my good buddies, when I was at 640, our sister station, Jeff, as you know, 850 WFTL, which is a great politics news station down in South Florida. I really think that Joyce Kaufman is the best political talk show host maybe ever in South Florida, certainly in 20, 25 years. She's got a very successful show on 850. I'll be on her show coming up Friday at 2:30 in the afternoon.
All right, definitely want to give you that plug right there. Sid, I'm going to give you one more question before you go. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. One more for you before you go. Sid Rosenberg, all the way live from New York City, man. Sid, we know about the backlash that the celebrities, the entertainers have gotten from going to the White House. Do you foresee a problem where the champion teams, the Super Bowl winners, NBA champions, all the collegiate teams, will they be hesitant to go to the White House because of the emotions or the all the feelings surrounding Donald Trump?
Oh, I think there's no question about it. I mean, look, let's be honest. The last 8 years, there were plenty of athletes. You don't want to go meet Barack Obama. I remember a couple of years ago when the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup, and their goaltender, Tim Thomas, had an amazing year, and in fact won the Conn Smythe Trophy. He didn't go to the White House, and he's not the only one. So that happens all the time, Jeff. There are plenty of athletes who don't like the president and do not go to the White House. In this case, because Donald Trump is so disliked, the most disliked president ever to take office, there will be plenty of athletes that will not show up. Look, if Cleveland wins again, and right now they're playing horrible basketball, but if they ever win again, LeBron James ain't going. J.R. Smith ain't going. Those guys, they won't even stay in his hotel when they come to New York to play against the Knicks. So those guys can't stand him. So there will be plenty of athletes who don't show up. And let me say this. I'm okay with that. I understand people will say, disgusting. He's the president. You got to respect that. If you don't like somebody in the job they're doing, then you don't have to go. If you don't like Barack Obama, I was okay with that. If you don't like Donald Trump, I'm okay with that. I don't think you have to go because he's the president. It would be nice to show some respect. But in the end, if you really, really in your heart of hearts believe that's not the guy, I'm okay with that.
Where can we get your book, Sid?
You can buy my book, actually, on Amazon.com and also BarnesandNoble.com. The name of the book is You're Wrong and You're Ugly. It's about 5 years old now, Jeff, but I got to tell you, it's still pertinent today. A lot of big-time people, including Pat Riley, wrote chapters in my book about me, my relationship with them. It's a fun book. I mean, there's some tough things in there. I talk about my addiction issues, and some of the things that derailed me along the way. But thank God, at least right now, seems like a very happy ending.
Yeah, man, it seems like you landed quite well on your feet. Sid Rosenberg, right there, folks. Follow him on Twitter at Sid Rosenberg. Man, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for making time for us. Really, really appreciate it, all right?
Hey, you were always very, very nice to me down there, you and your partner. And you're a good guy. I wish you the very, very best. And anytime, Jeff, I can help you, you've got my number. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I appreciate the invite.
Appreciate you, Sid. Thanks again.
God bless.
Thank you.